Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to Sam Shuck. Sam's debut novel, Glimpses, is a murder mystery with humour and a touch of the supernatural thrown in, and is already receiving 5-star reviews on Amazon. Hi, Sam. Thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Thank you. Would you like to give Book Talk Radio Club listeners a brief synopsis of Glimpses?
Sure. It's based on, I don't know if you've ever just been doing something and you see something out of the corner of your eye and you turn towards it and you might actually have something there or you may not. That's kind of the premise behind Glimpses.
Mm-hmm.
And for this particular book, it's about John Brighton, who is a senior in college in a small West Tennessee college, UT Martin, which does exist, and he's kind of having an identity crisis because he lost his mom when he was young, and he and his father have strained relations, and he grew up in a small town, and he doesn't want to settle down in that small town,
Mm-hmm.
and he's also had this gift or curse or whatever you want to call it of glimpses. From the time he was a child. He didn't think anything about it when he was young because he thought it was normal for everybody. But then when he figured out it wasn't, he kind of squelched it. And so he's off at school. He's trying to figure out what he wants to do. He really hasn't. He's gotten through 3 years of college, but he doesn't know what he's going to do, like so many college students these days.
Right.
And so he's starting to panic a little bit about it, right? Mm-hmm. And so he goes out to meet some of his buddies, and he gets mugged, he gets hit in the head, and he's sort of has a premonition about that. And then they get stronger after he gets out of the hospital,
Right.
and it leads him down a path. Mm-hmm. And there was a murder involved, and this leads him down the path of the murder of his mother, and eventually, because he starts to pay attention to these glimpses, he solves it.
Right. So this is the first in a series of John Brighton mystery series. What kind of man is John Brighton? Tell us about him. What kind of character is he?
John's an intelligent kid, and he's a little bit lost and trying to figure out who he is. He's kind of an ex-athlete, but he's one of those athletes that was good in high school, but his body wasn't quite put together well enough to make it to the next level, go to college and
right.
try to go pro, but he was really good, so it was kind of a conundrum for him.
Right.
And he's a good guy. He doesn't have any deep-seated malicious problems or issues with his personality. He's just kind of lost.
Right.
And he's to find himself.
So did you build his character from someone you know, or is he an amalgam of people?
He's loosely, there's some of me in there.
Mm-hmm.
His character sort of developed the more the book was written, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
The idea was what started the book, and I picked the character, and then I decided I wanted to write about West Tennessee, small town Tennessee, which I know about, and it kind of just wrote itself from there.
I've interviewed many authors that write fiction, excuse me, and they tell me that the characters start telling them the story. I mean, did you experience this? Did John Brighton begin to take on a life of his own as you were writing?
Absolutely. Started writing the book, and then as it progressed, I would go back and look at what had been written and realize that everything had changed. And, he was a completely different age. When I first started, I wrote him in as a freshman, and then realized part of the way through the book that he needed to be older than that.
Yeah.
And the way that he was acting, the things he was doing, and the circumstances that I was going to put him in. So I had to go back and rewrite the beginning of it, and it just kind of followed itself through to the end. Mm-hmm. It's not I wouldn't call it a novel, it's more of a novella. It's about 40,000 words.
Right. Right.
So the story just kind of wrote itself from beginning to end.
You've told us why the title Glimpses. Is this something you've experienced?
No, it wasn't actually, the book idea wasn't actually my idea. I'm the writer in the family, but my wife came up with the idea.
Okay.
She's been pushing me for years to write. She was with me when I was in college. We lived together back then, and I was in creative writing. That was my minor, and she's been saying, "You need to write. You need to write. You need to write." It took a lot of years for her to convince me to do it, but she had just thrown this idea at me at one point, and I really liked it. And so one day I said, "You know what? I'm going to do it." I just sort of overcame my fears and insecurities, and said, "I'm going to do it." And she said, "Well, what are you going to write about?" And I said, "I'm going to write your Glimpses book." Right. So that's how I got there.
So why did it become a murder mystery?
That's just kind of how the story laid itself out.
Right.
It's kind of I know you're going to ask this question later, but I'm going to answer it a little bit early. It was kind of a family affair because it's funny, but back when I was in college, I test really well, right? I hate doing all the legwork and the dirty work. And so my wife was my typist. I would write my papers, but I would dictate them, and she would type them for me. And so she does all that with my other career. And so I talked and she typed for this book. So I got feedback continually the whole way through it.
Oh, fantastic.
And then my daughter was involved. She's very talented, and she was actually my copy editor and my cover designer. And so we would write a chapter, and then we would send it to her, and she would send it back to us, and she's one of the ones that would point out, he can't do that at 18, or that doesn't make sense, or people don't talk like that anymore. If you wanted to be 50, make him 50, you know. So it really was a family project. It was a lot of fun.
Do you have a particular author hero in the murder mystery genre?
I do.
Who's that?
And it doesn't fit exactly the murder mystery genre, but if you read the book, you might recognize a little bit of influence and style. But Robert Parker,
right,
is one of my heroes, and Ace Atkins is the person who they hired to ghostwrite his books after he died.
Right.
But I always loved his characters, and I loved the stories, and I kind of wanted to turn this into a small town detective sort of murder mystery, but it's going to kind of take a life of its own as it heads off into the series.
Sure.
Yeah.
As I said earlier in the introduction, you're already receiving 5-star reviews on Amazon. Congratulations. Including a terrific introduction to a new author and mystery series, and a mystery with twists, turns, and unexpected revelations that engage your emotions. As authors, we go through so many doubts. At what point in the writing process did you think to yourself, yeah, this is a good book?
Well, I knew it was a good idea. That's a funny question to ask because after about a year of writing on it, maybe not quite a year, 9 months or something like that,
right,
we thought we'd finish the book. And I was all excited about it. And we went back and started looking at it, and my daughter started giving us feedback, and what we had was a glorified outline, and we had to go through and flesh it. I mean, we had bones is all we had. We had to go back and flesh through the book and continue writing it and making it into a real entity as opposed to a really, really advanced outline.
Yeah, it's an idea on paper, as it were.
Yeah, so to speak. And in that process, we got better as we went. The chapters that we were sending her, by the time we were getting in about 2/3 or half to 2/3 of the way through the book, our daughter was sending back, and there were so many fewer edits, and she was saying that's good, and yes, this makes sense, and we had less to rewrite and redo. We really had to go back to the beginning and start over because it took a while to kind of get our style and get everything straight.
Sure.
When we started proofreading it, I proofread it probably 12 times, trying to make sure everything was just right before we went ahead and published. And in the process of the proofreading, I enjoyed it every time. And so then my daughter said it was good. My wife said it was good. I really trust their opinions. And then in reading it, I knew it was good. And then my mother-in-law read it, and she called us and said, I meant to just read it a little bit at a time, and she said I sat down and I couldn't stop until I finished it. That, I knew, okay, this is really good. This is really good.
The tagline for your book is Murder, Mystery, Humour and the Supernatural, all in small town Tennessee. Most murder mysteries don't have the supernatural or humour. Why add these to your book as well?
Well, like I said, the book wrote itself.
Yeah.
And the glimpses were, or are, in the book, they're sort of premonition-based, and they touch on the spiritual realm.
Right.
And so they are leading and guiding John as he learns to understand them and interpret them. He figures out that he can see things, and that he can change some things that could happen or could not happen. So, so the supernatural portion of it came because of the premise itself, in that we like the idea of you see something in your peripheral vision, and you can't really interpret it. You're not looking directly at it. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And we don't believe in the spiritual realm.
Sure.
So, sort of a communication process between those two.
When you're not writing, I understand from your bio that you spend your free time riding and training your horses and dogs on what your wife calls your gentleman ranch. Now, I've been to working guest and luxury ranches all over the Rockies and the Southwest, but I've never heard of the expression gentleman ranch. What is a gentleman ranch?
Okay, well, I didn't make that up. That's my wife's idea. And so I didn't start out, I have 8 horses, and I didn't start out with that many horses. I started out with 1. I still actually have him. He'll be 29 years old this year, believe it or not.
Wow.
I got him when he was 7 months old.
Oh.
And but when I first bought a piece of property, and you have to have things like tractors and equipment, and
Sure.
4-wheelers, and lots of help, especially if you're keeping everything up yourself. I couldn't afford any of that. So her father would loan me his equipment, and his equipment, I appreciated the loan of the equipment very much, but it didn't run very well. So I spent about 50% of my time trying to fix it, and I'm not the best mechanic in the world. As we made progress with our household situation, I bought newer equipment, wound up with new tractors and new 4-wheelers and new things and more horses. And so now all my stuff starts just like that. I just turn the key, and I love it that way. I just go out, I keep it all in the barn. I blow it off and wash it and keep my tractor clean and everything, spotless, so that I can just go out and do my work and put it up so I don't have to spend too much time doing it. And she said, she calls it gentleman because if I were a typical West Tennessee sort of redneck type ranch, then everything would be put together with baling wire, and it would only work if you jiggled it just right and held your mouth right.
Got you. So do you ride with a Western or a European saddle?
I'm Western.
Oh, okay. Nice and comfortable, huh?
Well, yeah. I have competed in barrel racing, and I'm getting into working cow horse competitions and things like that. And that's all Western based. So when I grew up, my grandfather had horses in a farm, and we rode Western saddles growing up.
You dedicate your book to Melissa and Rissa, and you credit your sanity to your faith as well as the influence of your wife and daughter. How involved were they then in glimpses, if at all? I mean, you've told me about this. What did they think of their new author? Tell me about that.
We're a very close family. My wife and I met on a Saturday night, and we made a date for a Monday night, and we've been together ever since.
Wow.
Just like that. So, and we're best friends as well as everything else that goes along with being in a happy marriage. And our daughter is fabulous. She's our only child and extremely talented, bright. We spend a lot of time with her. She spends a lot of time with us. She's very creative. She's a writer in her own right. She hasn't published anything yet,
right?
But she's going to. And it was almost like everything is with us. I don't take credit for anything that I do because I know I have so much support here at home. They're just kind of a part of everything that I do, and they're very proud of the book. They're happy to have been a part of it. The idea was my wife's. My daughter was big time support during the process. They're excited about it and ready to write write the next one, and kind of doing their own things too. My wife just wrote a Christmas play for our church. My daughter and her are working on a separate fantasy novel right now.
Right.
I'm going to be working on a children's book with my wife too, and of course the second novel of the John Brighton series. So,
when can we expect book 2?
Book 2 should be coming out sometime late next year, I think.
Okay. So where can Book Talk Radio Club listeners purchase Glimpses?
They can purchase them on Amazon, iBooks, Apple, Kobo, Scribd, Barnes & Noble, Tolino, 24 Symbols, Playster, Overdrive, Baker Taylor, just about anywhere that you like to buy your digital books. As far as paperbacks, we can take special orders for them.
Right.
And we're on a budget, so we're making them ourselves and sending them out to people as needed.
All right. Well, thank you, Sam. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club again. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you. I had a blast. Appreciate it.
Thank you.